Okay, welcome US Virgin Islands Chess. You've selected the FIDE Online Rapid and Blitz Arena games from your host Colin Heim, all my personal games. And we have another game from the arena here with black pieces and my opponent here with white. Team white conducting the white pieces. Going for this Sicilian. Guys, everybody just plays e4 online most of the time. You see most people start with e4, king's pawn opening. The dubious c5 now, d3. So far guys, if you check the FIDE playlist here and you go through some of the other selected content, we'll find knight f3, we'll find knight c6 as a response, d4, c takes, knight takes, and whatever black decides to do after this, d6 or e5. I have a lot of games that go like this. Check to the black king. This is all standard book stuff. Anyway, guys, in this game we didn't see that. Instead, we saw d3 played by my opponent. Okay, now e5. So closing off the center. Now saying it's too late to play d4 because then now just black controls the center after that. Okay. So knight f3 was my opponent's response, guys, and now knight to c6. So now it's kind of looking more like a standard Sicilian. And bishop to e2, guys, is a good move, and knight to f6 is also a book move, and short castles. Okay, so this is a pretty normal position so far. I think this has been seen probably in the database a lot, over the board, online, and otherwise. Anyway, guys, thank you for tuning into this online virtual instructional. Your host Colin Heim with US Virgin Islands Chess at Home and Abroad. Have a nice little simple game to show you guys, again, how to just properly manifest a good consolidated win with black pieces against white in a normal Sicilian with d3. Okay, so knight captures on d5 as a response to white just capturing here on d5, guys, with the e-pawn. So knight captures and knight to c3. And yeah, sorry guys for moving kind of quick, but knight c3, if you're playing with team white here, you're conceding the c-file. You're basically saying, okay, I'm allowing black to give me double pawns here. Try to find a better move in this position, guys, for team white. Give everyone a couple of seconds. What's a better move for white? c4. Right, we see that now the knight is under attack. f6 is best, and there's a counter attack here from white now. Now you can play knight to c3 or knight to b2 or even queen to c2. Maybe queen to c2 isn't best. Yeah, guys, maybe something like this. And now the game can continue. Okay? So, yeah, something like that. But anyways, we saw a little early knight c3 here. And yeah, just now conceding the c-file with double pawns. So I said, okay, is this what you want? b6 now getting ready to fianchetto the light square bishop. The engine really doesn't like knight g5 here because h6 can come. And now after the knight gets kicked away, black is gaining a tempo. A tempo meaning a time where you can gain positional initiative for the cost of a move. That's what a tempo means, guys. So you guys hear me use this kind of terminology a lot. Tempos, takes, positional advantage, tactics, all the above. Okay. We see bishop f3 and bishop to e7 now. Bishop to b2, fianchettoing the dark squared bishop here is a good move. And now comes f5. Okay, guys, f5. So black has all this under control. Let's find the best square for the knight in this position, right? The best move played by my opponent, knight to d2. That's a good move. And now g5. Wow, g5 exclam. So now saying that this bishop has to go somewhere, or else this king side is going to be at the mercy of these pawns, right? This semi-pawn king side wall, okay, that I'm looking to build up, of course. Now, perhaps my opponent was considering this move now, and if I ever pushed, well, then there's just this long diagonal, that long-range shot to h8. But instead in the game, guys, instead of that, we just saw bishop captures on c6. My opponent goes for the c6 knight, recapturing with the bishop, obviously. And now d4, now fighting for the center. Okay, so we talk about semi-pawn loss, guys, semi-pawn gain, And what that means is what strategies are you using? What squares are you putting your pieces on to maximize the amount of centi-pawn gain you are hoping to achieve in the position in order so that you can take advantage of the center, so that you can fight for the center and be successful. Okay, so in this position, guys, the best move is, of course, not to take the pawn here. If pawn takes, and you can't castle yet, and rook is going to e8, and maybe white's in a lot better shape here. Now queen h5, and black looks pretty asleep there. Anyways, that was not played in the game. As we mentioned now, just e4 pushing, and now black basically has total control of the king side, for the pawn majority, that is. So my opponent played d captures on c4, bishop into c5, guys, whoops. So d into c5, bishop into c5, and now c4. Okay, so c4 should have been played a long time ago. And these bishops, ergo for Team Black, look really, really good. Anyways, I was willing to exchange one of the dark squared bishops. Perhaps my opponent should have considered the move c3 in this position. And then after that, of course, dropping back all the way to g7 would make sense. And then, yeah, the game could continue. But instead, my opponent just captured. Okay, so we see captures on d4, queen into d4, and knight to b3. Knight to b3 now attacking the queen. Well, although black is not up a pawn in this position, it basically is guaranteed now that the king side is owned by Team Black. So it's as if black is up a pawn in this position, guys. So we saw queen into d1, rook a into d1, and now exchanging all the rooks except for the king side rooks. And there's rook to d1 check, checking my black king, of course. Knight to d4. Let's pick up the pace a little bit, attacking the c6 bishop. And now f5, f4. Okay, so now, guys, I want you to find the best move for white in the position. What is the engine recommending here? Right, knight to e6 check. But instead we saw, in the game, we saw my opponent, okay, he did play knight to e6 check. Okay, I might have missed that. So there was a check, and after king to b7, now rook is sliding over to e1, rook to e8 now, forcing the knight to move as there is no protection. There are no pawns, for example, that can come in behind, right, as if the pawn was here, guys. Maybe on something like d5, it could be able to defend there, but not in this position. The knight has to move. So knight to g7, that was not the best move. Where was the best move to travel with the knight, right? Obviously now d4 was best, just attacking the bishop. And after something, let's say, like a5 and captures, well, then I'd still very, very much rather play with black here. These pawns are going to fall eventually, and black has a kingside majority 4-3, with rook still on the board. Okay, so here after knight to g7, we saw rook to d8 and knight to e6 now, attacking this d8 rook. But now the rook can get in behind on the second rank, guys. Remember we say in all of our videos, get to the second rank, get to the 7th rank, get to that second to last rank in order to cause problems for your opponent. And that's exactly what this is doing. Now we're going to see that after white did not play rook to d1, instead rook to c1, defending the c2 pawn. And now after bishop to a4, now there's no coverage. You can't defend this pawn twice. So in the advent, rook goes back to e1 now, having to make up for the e4 center pawn. But in a moment, after g3, yeah, my opponent couldn't play something like this because this is check and mates. Okay, guys, do we understand? None of these pawns have been advanced yet on the king side, so that's a back rank mate. Okay, proper terminology. Okay, back rank. Okay, so g3 and rook to d1. Rook takes on d1, bishop takes on d1. This was all played in the game now. Knight d8 check. Wow, king to a6, knight to c6, and b5. C captures b5, and obviously the best move here was just knight captures on a7, and the king can start walking up the board for Team Black, but that was not played in the game. Instead, my opponent played knight to d4 check. And after king to c4, knight to e6, and f3. F3 does a great job of tucking the king away in that corner. Now there's virtually nowhere for the king to go as it does, except for maybe h1 or g1, and those are both highly unrecommended. Well, maybe g1, of course, but if g1, then something like this can happen in check. And black is winning. Black has an a-pawn on the queen side. So instead of that, guys, we saw g4. Now even putting more coverage here, just to not let any more pawns get forward, so that there's just never going to be any advance for Team White on the king side, right? Just not allowing it. Okay, A5, knight E6, A4, knight C7, king B4, knight D5 check, king A3, knight C3, and knight to B6 was played. Knight to B6 was, I think, kind of conceding the game at this point. King captures on A2, knight captures on A4, and bishop to A4. Guys, we can stop here, and yeah, black is +4, a bishop and a pawn for no compensation here, and black is tucked away in that king side corner. Let's go over now how to finish this game. So if you ever have this position, let's just say an extra pawn and a bishop, how to win. If, let's say, you're conducting black here, for example. So king to F1 and king to B2. King to G1. Yeah, again, just no progress being able to be made. We're going to see H5 here, though, by white in just a moment. After king F1 and bishop to B5, and now here's H5. E3, F captures E, king E3, king H2, and F2, king G2, and queens. Okay. So we got to be careful in this position, guys, not to force a draw, force a stalemate. So in this position, like, let's just say check, and then maybe going here. It'd be very, very unfortunate if you played a move like bishop to C6 here, for example, because then there's no moves for white. So Team White would just claim a draw, right? There'd be no further progress. If you can't make a move in chess, then that means that the game is drawn, as the pawns are still on the board for Team White, and that's considered mating material. So hence no progress and no moves available. That equals stalemate. So instead of blundering bishop c6 for a draw, let's find the best move for black now for my beginners. What would be best here? Queen into g3, that's right, check. King has one square to go, that's h1. And bishop to c6, now you can play after capturing on g3, and that's check and mate, guys. So I want to thank everyone for participating and watching this video, and see everyone on the other side. Much more material to come in the future. This is your host Colin Hine with US Virgin Islands Chess at Home and Abroad, FIDE Online Arena. And I love sharing my games with you guys. Plenty more to come. Take care and bye-bye for now.